Albert AWOL, the voice of the jungle, broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello and welcome home. Thank you for joining us for the Waitlist. This is I don't have a full fun opening for the Waitlist, but
just ill-prepared as usual. Tom was sending messages yesterday that this was going to be short, and I was like, it's only going to be short if you don't prepare for it.
No, I'm prepared.
Well, prepared would be a waitlist opening, I feel like.
We've never had a waitlist opening. It's always kind of been a little more casual. Maybe we should explain what the waitlist is for people that don't know.
And why there's no opening.
There's an audio opening. There's just no opening for me here. Yeah. So the waitlist is a little different than our regular show. It's a topic based show that we do. A lot of times
when somebody goes away, pretty much, or
it's when somebody goes away, or we want to take a break for the holidays or something. So I don't want to say it's a filler show because it's not a filler show.
Well, we'll see on how prepared you are, whether it's a filler show or not.
I mean,
do you have notes? Here's the question: do you have notes?
I have some notes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I have some notes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we, this is, like I said, it's a topic-based show. So this will be our episode kind of 152, I guess, but not really. We'll have an episode 152. It'll come after 151. So this is because, I'm off, at Disney World right now. So, even though, we're doing this now.
Will you be back by the time it's released or no?
Yes.
What day are you coming? Oh, you will.
Yeah. I will be back. Yeah. Okay. But, we had talked a lot about topics we wanted to do for this, and we had asked the listeners, and the one we decided on was from Francisco, and the topic is, where specifically are you building the next off-location Disney resort, and what will you include to entice people to stay or purchase DVC year-round?
And again, I just want to make a note that while we appreciated Chris's, right, we kind of, Trevor and myself and Tom kind of discussed that, we try to talk about the way DVC changes kind of as the show progresses a little bit. So it's kind of like, go listen to the old shows, to the new shows, and I think you'll kind of see that progression. It may be something that we tackle going forward, just on shorter little bursts rather than a whole show. I think it was a difficult topic for a show, but this came up, and with the fact that I'll be going to Vero, and I was just at Hilton Head, and Tom has been at Hilton Head, this becomes an interesting topic. So I guess I'll start, because I was a little bit torn at what I was going to do at first. So I'm going to kind of put out what I felt like were some of my original ideas, and then kind of how I narrowed it down a little bit. For me, I was going to keep it in the U.S., and I'm going to keep it in the U.S. for, let's say, business reasons for Disney, and just for ease of getting to each of these locations. So, Trevor, unfortunately, I did not include Canada in that. I'm just going to keep it everything passport free here for at least U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
So what I kind of looked at, and I said, okay, what are the places that people kind of like to go and like to do, and then what could be kind of wrapped around each one of those. So, I had a Caribbean resort, right? And I understand that the Caribbean does exist at Disney, but, something that was a little flashier, had a little bit more access to the coast, like a Vero, but kind of on, a little bit on steroids. It was another thought, and maybe not necessarily in Florida per se, but somewhere on the West Coast, was kind of my thought. So that was just a thought. That's not what I'm going with here. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, no, that's definitely not what I'm going with. So I'm just kind of going to give you what my thoughts were as I was thinking about this. Then, another one of the ideas that I had was something that existed by the Grand Canyon. That was another idea. And I kind of let that one go as well. And then I also had a Dude Ranch, which came in number 2 for me. I thought that was, it could have been pushed over to number 1, but it didn't make it. And then the other idea was something in the mountains, which I definitely, was torn on how I would approach that, skiing or not skiing. So let me just put out there that I decided to do a mountain resort with no skiing. And let me just explain why.
Wait, so no skiing at all? There's just no
skiing. No, there's no skiing. And the reason behind the no skiing is this. I don't think Disney as a business is going to want that liability. I just don't see it. So for me, it was very difficult to get around that, experience of no skiing in the mountains. But I feel like I had to, because Disney's just not going to do that. I just don't see that happening. So what I actually went with was a mountain resort, right? And no skiing, but there is tubing, right? I decided to leave tubing in there. I felt like, while that can be dangerous in and of itself, I felt like they could Disneyfy it, and they could definitely put some parameters around tubing that would make it safe, right? Like, I mean, we've all been tubing, right? Either on our own or in other places. And, it's fairly safe, especially at some of the ski resorts. But I felt like, they'll definitely put the Disney spin on it where it's, safer than, let's say, maybe even some of those resorts. Here's the thing that I'm really torn on, though. I think I'm going to Christmas theme the whole thing, right? All year round, Christmas all the time. Year round Christmas all the time. That's really what the draw was for me, because, we're not building another park. We're not building other rides. If I'm going to eliminate the things like, a national park, I said, I think the draw could be Christmas year round. One of my favorite places to stay at Dollywood was the Christmas Time Inn, because it was always Christmas all year round. And I really enjoyed that. There's a lot of things you can do. You can do cookies. You can do, movies. You can also do, story time every night. You can do all these things around the resort with tubing in one of the, colder locations. I'm kind of torn on exactly where I'm putting it, but I think I'm going to go somewhere up north, somewhere where we can make snow most of the year.
Colorado.
Yeah, we could do that. But it needs to have snow most of the year. I mean, obviously there's going to be some days where you just can't accomplish that, but we are going to be in the mountains, and as high in the mountains as we can go to be away from everything. But that's the general idea of my resort. So you're going to have tubing, you're going to have movies, you're going to have a relaxing experience, but there'll be no skiing. Now, should you want to go skiing, there will be skiing close, right? So something that Disney owns no liability for, but will shuttle you over there. That was kind of my take on the skiing. So not a resort skiing, but something that they would take you over there to do. And a lot of activities like you would see at, the Hilton Head or the other, off-site resorts in terms of what goes on each day. Maybe more along the lines of a cruise ship, because again, while Hilton Head does have a fair amount of things, there's still doesn't have that feel of a cruise ship. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at a very high level, which I'll get into more of it, the food and all that after. But what are you guys looking at from a higher level resort wise?
So, okay. Yeah, I guess I'll go next. I'm with you on the mountain resort, but I was thinking obviously Canada, but yeah, if not going outside of the US, Colorado is a very close equivalent to what we have in Alberta in terms of skiing and mountain resorts and all that kind of stuff. So I'm with you there. As far as the, you were talking about, having, like the tubing. The interesting thing is that a lot of mountain resorts, because they have the summer and the winter seasons, a lot of them are opting to, they're actually open in the summer, and they're finding ways to make use of those like hillsides and ski hills as they'll set up like these luge tracks and stuff like that.
Very un-Disney-like, right? That's the only thing.
But,
I feel,
But I'm saying though that they can set something up. Like, it doesn't have to be these. I know what you're thinking is these temporary ones. They're sketchy and all that.
They have them in Dollywood as well. They have the down the side of the mountain slides.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it just doesn't seem very Disney-like with the liability involved. But I mean, I often think about that as well in terms of another resort, and that was on my list originally. But I tried to stick to things that I think Disney would allow themselves to do. Like, that would be great though, Trevor. I like that because Dollywood has great ones.
You don't think that you don't think that Disney couldn't do that in a way that, it would align with their safety and all that?
I don't think that they could do it in a way that would align for the resort guests' independence and their safety. I don't know how else to say that nicely. Right. If someone's going to get off the boat in vegetable land, then yeah, no.
Fair
See,
point.
I'm just always thinking of, and Damon, you probably know this too. Like when I was a kid, like the New Jersey and the Pennsylvania ski slopes usually will have like a water park attached. So then the summertime they do like water park, and then the wintertime they do the ski slopes. Like that was a lot of the ski slopes were like that.
I could see that. So something maybe like a beach and yacht club, a little bit more, but not crazy enough to be a full blown water park.
Yeah. Well, these were like full blown water parks, though.
Yeah, I mean, full blown Disney water parks are like just taking it down a notch a little bit. I think the thing is that then you're just sitting on, like, Disney's really good as a business, and I just feel like sitting on a water park in the winter, yeah, it just doesn't seem very Disney like either.
It almost has to turn into like
indoor Great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah.
Well, don't steal my idea before I get to it.
Well,
that's why I went first.
Yeah, because Damon's thinking the same as the rest of us, so we're all, we're all already there. So now, okay, so the decision is then I think we've all agreed it would be a mountain resort.
So Tom, right? what's your high level?
All right,
is it mountain?
No, it's actually not.
Oh,
It's New York City. So, I think Disney would love, and before they built Disney World, they actually looked in New Jersey at one point, right? And the reason why, obviously, is because the weather, right? It's cold during the wintertime, right? So what I'm looking at is Disney builds something like the American Dream in the Meadowlands, which used to be called Xanadu, is now called American Dream, and features things like an indoor water park. There's retail involved there. There's indoor amusement parks. There's roller coasters. There's all sorts of stuff. And so that's where I'm looking at it, right? Because you're close by New York City, right? So you can go and, visit New York City and do some New York City stuff. And then you still have like the indoor water park. You have some retail. You got restaurants, good.
Could you imagine the point dues cost? I can't even.
A fortune. The property taxes alone.
Yeah, that's the problem I have with that one. I think that it's too cost intensive in terms of property.
I just look at it as Disney. I think that's a market that Disney really wishes they could get a piece of, right? Is that area, that tri-state area over there. And the only way you do it is if it's indoor, because you can't have a year-round park there.
Yeah, I just don't know if the money numbers work on something like that, because Disney's really good at property costs, right? I mean, being in Florida. Sure. I mean, I guess California, though, that's got to be pretty expensive, but it's also smaller. I mean, I guess doable.
When it started, it made sense because it was just an orchard to begin with.
Yeah, there was no Silicon Valley. Yeah. I just don't know if you could pull it off now just for real estate. Like, I'm trying to think, like, where would you even put it? You're going to stick it in New Jersey, number one, because there's no way you're affording New York.
You do the Meadowlands. You do the Meadowlands right across the water there,
Oof, that's got to be a lot of money.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be less money than New York, though.
Barely, but yes. I mean, I agree.
But yeah, I'm literally thinking of like the same area of where they have, American Dream Meadowlands. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. Like I said, it was called Xanadu. They literally were working on it for like over 20 years trying to get this thing done, and it finally opened last year. But it's got an indoor ski slope like we're talking about. So it's got a 24, not 24/7. It's a 365 ski slope, so you can go skiing anytime. That's part of it. They have an ice rink. They've got, miniature golf. They've got a whole water park. They've got a whole Nickelodeon indoor theme park. Like it's crazy.
I think the benefit of that is that you're close to cruising. I think that's the nice part about that, is that you could pull that park off for a day or two before you jumped on a cruise.
Or you do all the touristy stuff in New York too, though.
Yeah,
not that I want to do that stuff, but you could do that stuff. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if that could become a reality just for being cost effective. So, Tom,
you could charge more, right? So,
I mean, what are your points looking like though? Who's buying that though? Who's buying that resort?
Okay, yeah, that's really expensive. To be fair, his original question was off-location Disney resort, and then I took it as could be a Disney resort, could be a DVC resort, could be either one. So I'm thinking a half and half here.
Yeah, because DVC, I just don't see anyone actually actively purchasing it for the cost. So Trevor, we're going to put Tom on hold for a second and go back to our
go back to your mountain. Listen, a mountain was my other thought too. So I'm with you because they got the beach locations, right? Mm-hmm. So there needs to be a mountain.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to stay away from the skiing and I'm going to stay away from that liability of the coaster on the side. But, you know, the other things that kind of exist at some of those places that I've been to, at least, you know, would be some sort of Christmas village food pavilion. Okay. So I'm going to take and put myself a mini Epcot in there in terms of the holidays. So it's going to be it's going to be year-round holiday food from different countries that exist in the cold, right? So I'm going to take all those cold places across the world and kind of give it this sort of, let's say, you know, again, I'm going to say Christmas village, but let's go theme this with holiday village. I'm fine with either way we go so that we can include all the different countries, and there's going to be all different food there. So that is going to be kind of where you eat all the time. So I'm not so worried about having to go off site. And I think that in itself is an experience, right? So I'm looking at experiences here on what you can do. So I think that's one of them.
Are you talking like a giant, you're talking about like a giant building here. You're not talking full countries, right? Or you're just talking like restaurants?
Correct. So yes, just food. So this is just a holiday food pavilion.
Think kind of like how Seasons is laid out in The Land, where like you got the different, like
that's like a food court.
Yeah.
But nicer than that, but
right,
sure.
Like a nice food court.
Yeah, absolutely. Like let's call it a nice food court.
You know, it's Christmas themed. It's very it fits the theme that Damon's going for. I can see it.
Yep. So that's what I'm doing there. And so my ice rink. So what this ice rink is it's going to be 4 distinct ice rinks that are going to be connected with these weird sort of Christmas light tunnels, right? And each one of these rinks per se is going to have different types of music, right? So there can be all different experiences in terms of ice skating, and you'll be able to skate between them, which is also kind of what I'm bringing to the table here. So again, looking at experiences that are a little bit cheaper but unique, and I think that would be one to bring to the table.
Yeah. Is this like an all-inclusive, or is it like, you pay for the hotel and then you also pay for each one of these activities?
So I'm going to say, what resorts do we really know that are all-inclusive? Nothing, right? So they're all going to be just like these DVC resorts where, so like they'll be a la carte. But I mean, I think that there'll be things that you'll want to do because what else will there be, to do? So again, I have these snow slopes that we're doing tubing on. I have these crazy ice skating rinks. I have this, multinational food pavilion, and everything is going to be Christmas and holiday themed all of the time. That's kind of what I'm going with.
All right. So, I mean, would people get tired of that though? Like, would that like kill repeat visitors though? Because they're like, I don't want to do Christmas again. I want to do a different holiday.
I don't know. Did you celebrate Christmas every year?
Yeah, no, that's true. But I mean, it's like I get it. I'm not against the idea. I'm just wondering if some people would be turned off by that.
I mean, just like Disney, it would be more popular at Christmas time, obviously, because people would double down on the Christmas. But I know, at least in my family, I have at least one person I can think of that, the Christmas store is open year round at Disney, and they're in there in April. Like,
oh yeah, of course.
It's So I don't see people getting tired of it. I think people will treat it. It's a novelty. It would be busy all year round because at different points people would be like, I want to go and do Christmas in October or Christmas in July or Christmas in April, right? Like,
and the shows, you'd have some shows there too. I'm going to throw some sort of holiday shows in the. Do we give them an amphitheater, an outdoor amphitheater, heated amphitheater? All right, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's give them an amphitheater. So I think that's what you're doing there, right? You got some shows, you got some food, you got this ice skating rink, you got some tubing. I think that keeps you there. I think there's story time. There's all little events, cookie baking. There's all these sorts of little events that can go on. Easter egg hunting in the snow, right? For the other holidays, fireworks over the tubing area for 4th of July. Like, I think you can make it happen.
You're missing out on, there needs to be a Santa's workshop similar to like the Build-A-Droid or lightsaber building in Galaxy's Edge. I mean, that's easy.
Do they
right?
do they work with Build-A-Bear directly, and that's just on site? Okay,
yeah,
I could do Build-A-Bear on site. I'd be okay with that.
Obviously, a Santa meet and greet is in order, right?
Yeah, I would say a Santa meet and greet. I think you have characters at this location as well. Just because I think that's going to kind of add to it. Think about all the people that go to Hilton Head, and really there's nothing to do there except relax. I feel like this would be something in the middle.
Yeah, and you add the Disney entertainment stuff in. Sorry, Trevor, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, think about it this way too, is it's not that people are spending, it's not a full like Disney World resort. It's, people are spending 2, 3, 4 days there kind of thing, right? Like for the amount of stuff we're talking about, it makes sense that, and again, to, Tom's point about, are people going to get sick of it? If you're only there for a couple of days, you're not going to be sick of it. Yeah. You're going to kind of, get hit over the head with Christmas and be all in, and then, leave probably being just wanting to go back to Christmas time.
Yeah. Damon, I was just thinking about your comments about Disney not wanting to do something that dangerous, and I'm remembering the race car driving experience they had right in front of Magic Kingdom for the longest time. Yeah. But I mean, then again, see, they didn't operate that. They just kind of had... So if they had like somebody else operate it and take all the liability off of them, maybe they'd be okay with it.
I don't necessarily think they would do something like that anymore. That's kind of the whole point, right?
Well, yeah, a couple people unfortunately died there. So, and then after that, it was kind of done.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're looking at now is that, if there is skiing, it is going to be kind of off-site. Maybe they'll give you a shuttle to one of the larger locations, and then there's zero liability because you're not even on their property anymore. I just don't see them having it on property at all, skiing. I mean, all it's going to take is somebody to, tear an ACL and then sue, because that's,
I could see a partnership with like there's some big ski resort companies.
Yep.
That, I can see them partnering with one of them that, hey, we have our resort and we're nearby to
absolutely
resort, whatever. But to your point, there's unfortunately people do get hurt and die quite regularly skiing. Yep. Usually it's, of their own, that they make their own mistakes, but it's,
I want to say hubris, their own hubris.
Yeah.
Thinking they can do a double Disney diamond when they're not. Yeah.
Disney can't handle that kind of liability, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do we think about like another beach resort? Because I in my head I was thinking maybe like Outer Banks, but maybe that's just me being biased.
Oh no, Outer Banks is terrible.
What's wrong with Outer Banks?
It's terrible.
I love the Outer Banks.
Outer Banks is the absolute worst place to go to the beach in the world, I feel like. It's terrible. I've been there a few times. Every time someone's like, hey, my cousin rents a house. They come from California to rent a house in the Outer Banks every year. And they're like, oh, you coming down? And I'm like, ugh, no. Outer Banks is terrible. Trevor, it's a strip of land that gets flooded out all the time. It's about 2 feet wide. There's no sort of any tree cover. So I've been burned twice in my life. And one of them was at Outer Banks. The other one was in the Caribbean, right? I was in Outer Banks with sunscreen on, and I got burned because there's no tree cover.
Yeah, there's no shade. Yeah,
it's the absolute worst beach in the world, I feel like.
Okay. Well, they couldn't build a resort on the Outer Banks themselves. It would have to be adjacent, but because as you said, there's not a lot of space.
I mean, you could buy, 10 houses in a row and put something up there. The problem is that, what happens when it floods and no one can get on and off the island? Like, they're not going to deal with that.
That's always a problem. Yeah, that is always a problem.
I would say something maybe in Georgia, but you have Hilton Head. I feel like if you're going to do that, you go to like Monterey, right? And you build it around an aquarium or something along those lines. Like, that would be kind of cool. I would say that if a Dude Ranch was my second choice, because I think that would just be a neat, fun experience to do like a Midwest Dude Ranch. Like, I feel like that's very Disney-like too.
So you're thinking like a Texas kind of.
Yeah, that would be kind of neat. Or even like, Wyoming or something. Like, that would be fine too. I just think, that whole Dude Ranch set up a lot of horse-related activities and campfires and cabins and, kind of what they fake in Disney for reals. You know what I mean?
Wilderness Lodge is kind of that.
Yeah, but for realsies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the funny thing is where I sit, I get the mountains, and I also get that Western like cowboy culture and all that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting idea because it, like you said, it lends itself to horseback riding stuff, but then you also do have the problem again of liability, like saying, hey, we offer, trail riding or whatever, people sign up for that all the time. But again, you're signing waivers and whatnot saying that you get hurt
absolutely,
that, right?
But I feel like that liability is a little less, and there is a little bit more, not control, but there's a little bit more that you can put around that in terms of, right? Like you're not talking about, a road. I mean, you could watch a rodeo, but you're not talking about necessarily throwing somebody on a horse and jumping around the forest. I think they would make it very tame, and a tame horse ride seems like you're lessening your liability, even though you're right, you cannot eliminate it. And I think the things you could do around that would be kind of neat. Like there's how many Disney animated movies do you have in the forest, right? Think about it. You could have like kind of like a
Davy
ride
Crockett
through the
thing.
forest. A what?
Davy Crockett, like,
yeah, but
expedition.
I was more thinking like you could have like kind of a themed sort of trail ride. So like you could see like Snow White and the dwarfs in the forest. You could see, all sorts of foresty type things on this kind of groomed trail. And hey, listen, you want to take the liability out of it? Like robotic horses. Like I'm good with that. Like, we're close enough that they could come up with something that was pretty neat. And actually that would be kind of cool.
We've got trackless cars. They could do the same thing with horses. Yeah.
Well, like a monorail, a horse, like a horse on a monorail. I could go with that and kind of riding through the forest.
Like a rail? Just like okay.
Yeah.
So it feels like a horse ride because you're on a monorail, right?
Yeah, okay.
And you're going through the forest. I could get on board with that. That seems expensive, but that would be cool.
It's
I can see Damon arguing for them to steal the cars out of Flight of Passage because they don't need them there.
That's true. That's true.
Oh my gosh. It's funny. I just decided to pull up just to really quickly pull up, canceled Disney projects, just out of, wanted to look at, and I forgot that they were going to build a hotel in Washington DC in Maryland in the National Harbor. And grab that area. But I mean, I don't know what was actually supposed to be there. I think it was just going to be like a resort, just like a hotel.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that's not a bad area.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know what they were going to do. And then I also forgot too about Disney Sea, which they were going to build in California.
That would have been neat.
Yeah. So
I think if you're going to DVC it, I think the thing is it does have to have a draw to it. And right now, could they sell Vero right now? See, that's my question with Vero.
I think so. Like, you don't think so?
I don't know. I haven't been there yet, so I don't want to speak on it until I've been there, but I just don't know. Could they, Hilton Head people go to because it's Hilton Head and, just relaxing. Could they do the same thing with Vero? I don't know. I haven't been to Vero yet. I was intrigued by Hilton Head. I enjoyed it. And I would definitely do it again, but how many times would I do it? Not enough to want to buy there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
So I think that's where it will be interesting.
So I just realized something as you were talking about the Western theme. You were basically describing the beginnings of a Westworld type amusement.
Yes,
that would be cool. That's
if Disney did Westworld, the robots probably wouldn't hurt people.
Probably, maybe.
So
we don't know.
Are we completely saying no to a Canadian resort there, Trevor? I mean, I'm assuming you would want something, right?
Yeah, but I think from a business standpoint, does it work?
It's got to be indoor, right?
No.
Well,
if it's by him anyway. If it's in other places,
but not from that point. If you're looking to get people to go,
yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's there's lots of areas in Canada, like there's quite a breadth of different things you can do. You can do the Western stuff. You can do the mountain resorts. Whether or not it's in Canada or the US, I mean, for me, that's selfish in saying, put it in Canada because then I don't have to cross the border. And, for anyone coming here, they have to do so. But That's why I said Colorado is very similar to where I am in Calgary. It's still that same, you've got the mountain resorts, but then you've also got like the farming and ranching and all that kind of stuff. So, it doesn't really, I don't feel that there's anything specifically in Canada that you could offer that's not already there. And again, talking about the, well, you could do like the wilderness lodge type thing. Yeah, that's like pretty much all of British Columbia. Like if you go into British Columbia, it's the same thing. And that's why like I don't laugh at wilderness lodge, but I'm like, yeah, it feels very much like a place I've already been. So I'm not as wowed by it as other people. So then you're talking about, well, where else is there? I mean, again, traveling east, it's the same thing. We have lots of nature type things, lots of those kinds of resorts. There's nothing like geographically unique here that I would say like you have to go to this area and build a resort here, right? Like, yeah. I mean, it's purely selfish.
I get what you're saying. I mean, to your point though, like you're talking about anything like geographic, like what if we talk about, like a resort at like Niagara Falls or something like that, like places where people go,
Yeah. But I mean,
it's a tough one for Disney because, they want to be the destination.
Yeah.
Sometimes
they want to be the focus of the attention, right? Is what you're saying?
I mean, kind of, yes. I mean, that's kind of what I feel like. I think that's why I kind of left off the Grand Canyon, to be honest with you.
Why else were people going to Florida before Disney World, right?
I mean, for the heat, for the weather, but that was about it.
Yeah. Apparently the cheap land too.
and yeah, people were going to like the beach, right? They were going down to Miami and stuff like that, but they weren't, where Disney sits, there wasn't anything there that was really drawing people previously. So it's the same kind of thing really anywhere else is that, Disney is looking at, I guess, places where there isn't necessarily already a group of people because it's the same problem that they had with Disneyland is that they built it, and it was originally an orchard, but then as Anaheim sprung up around it, you had like all of these people crowd in on Disneyland to the point where Walt couldn't expand it for the rest of the time that he was alive. So they don't want to necessarily go into an already populated area, Niagara Falls or any like major landmarks because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it was just also looking at these attractions that never happened. There was Disney's America that was talked about for a while that was supposed to happen, but that didn't happen either. But that would have been a park that was only open 8 months a year. So, so obviously that was, kind of something that they probably also didn't want to do too. Because of the reduced, part of the reason why they canceled was the reduced revenue of being closed 4 months a year. So there's a lot of interesting ideas here. I mean, where else would we put one? Is that all we had? I mean, do we have any other thoughts?
So my other thought was, okay, we've talked about going north. What about going south? Not staying in the US, but if you're going into like Mexico or even further into South America, I know there's a whole bunch of other logistics around that, but where would you guys think would make sense if you were going to go further south or even closer to the equator? Even like that's kind of interesting because it is year round, obviously, the same as Florida, but it does pose some different challenges too.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know. I'm keeping mine in the US. Okay. So
I mean,
I'm trying to think.
I would really love to see like I know we have Castaway Cay already for cruising, but I would love to see an expanded version of that. Like, or rather something that you don't have to get on a cruise ship to get there, right?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Well, what about like keeping it in the U.S., Damon? What about like a Puerto Rico one or like, something like that? Damon.
I'm thinking now. I'm going to say no. I want to keep it in continental U.S. There we go.
All right. There you go.
I guess that's the same problem as Hawaii with Alani, right? Is,
Yeah.
Aulani is a nice resort, but for a lot of people, it's hard to justify going there because it's a pain getting to Hawaii.
It's such a long flight. Yeah, it's even for people that are on the West Coast, it's a long flight. It's not easy to get there for sure. I mean, I guess it's easy. You just get a flight and then you go, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. I think a mountain location would be great since they already have 2 beach locations, right? So we already have 2 different places that have the beach. So like guys said, I the mountain one was what I was thinking too. Just because, like you said, it's something they don't have, and plus, Walt wanted to build a mountain lodge at one point, and I forget what the name of the project was. But let me see if I can find it really quick. But that was something they were going to do at some point,
Right.
Although I don't think it was necessarily going to be. Let's see. I'm just pulling up something here really quickly here. Oh yeah, there were plans for Disney's Mountain Lodge in Colorado.
Oh yeah,
that was
yeah. That's
yeah. That was supposed to be a DVC resort. Yeah,
yeah. But and again, I think it was probably similar to what Damon was already talking about. That they probably looked at it and went, maybe we don't want to offer skiing as a thing because that's just inviting all kinds of problems.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Right. Yeah, that's.
I will say, unfortunately, around here at least, there's been multiple incidents, and even people that I've known that they come from somewhere where they've never skied before, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to go skiing," and then they get on the hill and they don't know how to actually ski, and then they end up hurting themselves because of it. And imagine that tenfold, right? Like you've got even more people coming because there's people love Disney and they'll go to any Disney resort. That's probably why Disney decided against it, and why, to Damon's point, you need something more controlled. So like, inner tubes or whatever. I'm envisioning like building like an entire thing up the side of a mountain now, where they could like have the indoor skiing and indoor tubing, or not skiing, but tubing and all that.
Yeah.
But then again, they can offer it year round, or they can decide whether it's cold or, comfortable temperatures. Right. So,
yeah. It's interesting because this article is saying that because part of the reason why they didn't end up going through with the project in Colorado is because the Vero and Hilton Head sold so much slower than their other properties that it just didn't seem like it made sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Yeah, and then this one, they also mentioned too, there was, I guess in the 90s, they were looking at building one in Times Square. So let's see what else we got here. I'm just looking through.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to listen to us look at the web. All right, let's wrap this up.
I think this is I think this is interesting, things that they were looking to do,
Sure,
but
everyone go to Google and look at old Disney plans. Instead of listening to Tom look them up.
To be fair, we have been going at this for a little while too, and this is the Waitlist. So, I think,
Damon, go ahead, sir, Trevor.
I was going to say, I think we probably explored this one as far as we want to go without turning it into a full episode, right?
Absolutely.
Sure. Damon, is there a specific way you want to close this? Since I know you had it.
No, I thought you would have done that work. I mean, gosh, I put together like pretty much a notebook full of ideas here. I don't know what else I can do. Sorry.
All right, I could do our standard closing. Okay, don't forget to subscribe to Welcome Home Podcast so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, any podcast app out there. Just a reminder to our listeners: Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and as such, all opinions expressed on the show are our own. So please consult the DVC representative or Disney cast member for more information about anything we talked about today.
But we have to say thank you to all the Patreon people because they made this episode possible fully.
Yes.
Did they?
I mean, I think they did because there's no other people helping us make this episode.
You mean with the topics?
No, with the ads. There's no ads.
Oh yeah. Well, there's that. Yeah. I was. You're saying instead of it's doing the ad, you would thank the patrons. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, so thank you to our patrons on Patreon for I guess sponsoring this episode, right? For making these things possible without sponsorship. So
otherwise we just would have skipped.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have, but we can say that we would have.
All right. Well, this has been the Waitlist. Thanks, guys.
This is Skipper Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Do a huddle when we hit a chair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.